What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of The 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. The Splinter Cell franchise is my favorite stealth game of all time, or really stealth franchise of all time. Absolutely love it, guys. It has been one of those, franchises that I think has, one of the best stories out there. It has, some incredible characters. Sam Fisher, of course, is one of the best, just main characters in video games. And he's definitely up there with, like, Master Chief in my book, as well as, like, Marcus Phoenix and a number of others, right? Absolutely love Sam Fisher. I just love what the Splinter Cell franchise represents as a whole to the stealth community, because stealth-based video games, guys, have kind of gone the way of the dinosaur in a multitude of different terms, right? When we look at games like Splinter Cell and Thief and games of that nature, you're seeing them less and less, let's put it that way. And we've been waiting a long time for a continuation of the Splinter Cell franchise. That being, if we're going in, order, Splinter Cell 7, we, of course, have our last taste of Splinter Cell was Blacklist, which I think a lot of us can agree we didn't really like it that much. It was okay for what it was, still felt like Splinter Cell, but there were things about that we didn't really like. Well, in this episode, I should say in this segment of the show, what I want to talk about, guys, is everything that we want in Splinter Cell 7. Even though it hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, there's been a lot of rumblings that Ubisoft is working on another Splinter Cell game. They've been kind of giving us hints, whether that be Ghost Recon Wildlands and other places, that Splinter Cell is still something that they're thinking about and something that they want to make at some point or another. It just might be a little bit longer until we get another official continuation of the franchise. So when I say we, guys, as far as the things that we want in Splinter Cell 7, I'm going to be just giving you guys my opinion. I know a lot of you out there, though, probably share similar opinions to what I'm about to go over. And if you don't, let me know in the comment section below. So here we go, guys. Everything that we want. I think the number one thing, guys, in my personal opinion, when we talk about Splinter Cell, I liked pretty much all the Splinter Cell games overall. From the very beginnings of Splinter Cell, my least favorite was actually Blacklist, which of course was the last entry in the franchise. But all the other games I liked in one way, in one capacity or another. I just loved those games, guys. Pandora Tomorrow was incredible. I even liked Conviction as well as Double Agent. I know some people had mixed feelings about that, but I thought that those were really unique for the stealth genre as well. Making different choices and things of that nature was really cool. So I would like, personally, I think what Splinter Cell needs to do is they need to kind of continue the franchise in a direction of the traditions of Splinter Cell, going back to more of that stealth-based gameplay. We've talked about this with another IP of Ubisoft being Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed, guys, really started off as like a stealth RPG, and it kind of transitioned to an action RPG, which they've kind of gone away from the formula of what made Assassin's Creed so great, in my opinion. Well, the same thing with Splinter Cell. Blacklist was a little bit different, of course, than the other Splinter Cell games. And I think what they need to do is they need to go back to the traditions, back to the really gritty stealth, action game. Whereas you're prioritizing stealth over action, essentially. And I think that's what makes it such a great franchise as a whole. So number one is going back to the traditions. Number two would be, guys, for me, is having the co-op capabilities as well as the multiplayer, as well as a multiplayer experience for Splinter Cell, I think would really help expand upon the franchise as a whole. Whether you want to play with your friends in the campaign, or you want to play, of course, multiplayer modes with friends or by yourself, I think it's just more and more ways that you can connect with the franchise. Because what I think is really important with Splinter Cell, even though we love this franchise, one thing about it is usually it's pretty much just a single-player campaign. They've had co-op elements of some of the entries in the franchise, but overall, it's a single-player campaign. That's what you play. You play it all the way through. Maybe you go back, play it one more time. If you're playing like Double Agent or something, you want to try different choices and such and see what happens in the end. But all in all, after this campaign's done and after you beat it a couple of times, you're going to move on to other games. And I think it's really important that you have multiplayer experiences as well as some co-op experiences to continue building upon ways that you can connect with the franchise. And that's one thing that I would absolutely love to see moving into, Splinter Cell 7. I think another thing, though, guys, is that as far as the multiplayer components are concerned, if they did want to move in a direction of action over the stealth, they can at least try that more so in the multiplayer than in the campaign. I think the campaign needs to stick with heavy stealth. I think even having stealth in the multiplayer is great, but maybe making it, prioritizing action over stealth might be smarter, just because everyone, it seems, nowadays, when it comes to multiplayer, loves, action, more so than other game modes like stealth and such. I mean, look at the biggest games in the world, that being like Valorant and Call of Duty, CSGO and all these other, shooters. At the end of the day, they're all action. So I think that might be smart from a multiplayer perspective. But from co-op as well as this campaign, stick with, the traditions, but at least expand upon, having multiplayer and such. So that would be another thing, guys. I would also say that I think it's really important that we've stuck by Sam Fisher's side throughout all these different games. I think it's really important that his story somewhat comes to an end. Or if it doesn't come to an end, what we should see is him essentially passing the torch onto another character. And, Sam Fisher can, of course, in the next upcoming entries, can, of course, be, a side character. But as far as a main character, we have a new character that kind of helms the franchise moving forward into the next generation of consoles, into the next generation of just, gamers who are up and coming. I think it's really important. And so I think Splinter Cell 7 should stick with Sam Fisher, but we should see a passing of the torch, obviously, moving into Splinter Cell 8 and so on and so forth. Similar to like what we kind of saw with Gears of War, Marcus Phoenix passing the torch to JD Phoenix, his son, and then JD passing the torch on to Cade Diaz. And then, of course, in, Halo, you had, of course, Master Chief, and then the torch was passed and it came back to Master Chief. And then, we don't know what's going to happen with Halo Infinite, but I've said it before that I think it's time that the torch is passed to another character, because you can only go so long until things maybe get a little bit stale and such. And I think with a franchise like Splinter Cell, it would be important to kind of get a very smooth transition, and so I think they can do that here in Splinter Cell 7. So all in all, guys, those are the main things. I mean, one other thing that I would definitely want to mention would be that different locations, different places that you're exploring and you're infiltrating and such. I think it's really important. Like Pandora tomorrow having like the jungle and having like variety in where you're going. Chaos Theory having different areas. I think it's really important having a multitude of different places that we can really go into these environments, infiltrate different enemy bases and things of that nature. Really helps build upon. Kind of really makes you just more and more, gets you really into the story and kind of start really trying to understand, the environments that you're in, and it just kind of makes things, you want it to feel similar. You want the gameplay, you want the mechanics to feel like Splinter Cell, but at the end of the day, you also like to have some different changes of location. So that's another thing I think is really important at the end of the day. But all in all, guys, these are the things that I want in Splinter Cell 7. I know some of you probably share the same opinions, but some of you may not. And let me know in the comment section below what you guys want to see and what do you guys want in Splinter Cell 7. Let me know. And for more Splinter Cell 7 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. I spoke recently on the YouTube channel about kind of announcing that I was going to be going for the Phase 5 Recruitment Challenge. And it was something, guys, that I wanted to, kind of elaborate on, but I also wanted to kind of go through some of the things that I would like to see in the upcoming Phase 5 challenge. And so, guys, FaZe is a team that's really close to my heart, as just, over the years watching this team grow and such, just really inspired by so many of the players within that organization, even from the top down. I mean, from the leaders, the co-leaders, the owners, all the way down to, just some of the personalities now that are in FaZe. It's an incredible culture that they've created over at that organization. And I think that was something I definitely felt that was something I definitely wanted to do was to go for the Phase 5 challenge. And if you guys, support me, that would be absolutely awesome. And supporting me on the YouTube channel is incredible, guys. It's been great. We've been, growing every single day, and it's all because of you guys. And so if you guys would, support me in this journey of the Phase 5 challenge whenever it does come out, keep you guys posted, obviously, as further information comes out. But in this segment of the show, I want to talk about the top 5 things that we want in Phase 5. When I say we, guys, I'm saying, once again, talking about myself here, but I know some of you are going to share similar ideas and opinions, but some of you may not. And those of you who don't, let me know in the comment section below what you guys would like to see and what you guys want in Phase 5. So here we go. Number 1, guys, I think one of the big important things about Phase 5 is having it, some of the Phase 5 challenges, so there's been a couple up to this point, one was, of course, multi-COD, or I think it was MW2 in Call of Duty, and then the second was Black Ops 2, and then they had like a Phase 1 challenge, and, so there's been opportunities to join the team. I think it's important, guys, that as gaming has evolved, I think so should Phase 5. I think that Phase 5 should be multi-COD, and I also think that it could potentially be multi-game as well, where there's multiple games that you could be able to play that they would potentially pick you up. Now, maybe that's like Call of Duty and Fortnite, which would be fine. I know that they had mentioned in the past that they were going to do a Phase 5 strictly based around Fortnite. And, I think that that would be an interesting concept, but I think that they need to kind of stick with also doing Call of Duty stuff as well, where, kind of have somewhat of the traditions, which we'll get to here in a second, of Phase 5. But I think that it needs to be multi-COD, and it should be multi-game as well, even if that's just one other game like Fortnite or something. I think that's really important. I don't think that they should kind of pick out specifics to, MW2, Black Ops 2 are the only games that you can play in. I think that with the times and how things have changed over time in gaming, I think it's really important that you've got multi-COD, so you have multiple opportunities within Call of Duty, as well as something like Fortnite. Number 2, guys, I think it's important that, when we've looked in the past of the winners of Phase 5, you got a couple of trick shotters, got a couple of, snipers overall, and all of those guys, pretty much for the most part, those players that get recruited, they come into the team, and of course they're going to be, trick shotting, they're going to be sniping, and then some of them will go on to become personalities. I think that with this particular Phase 5, I think it's going to be important that they pick up like one streamer, one content creator, a trick shotter, a sniper, and then like maybe a Fortnite player or something if they're going with, multi-game. Obviously, that can change, but maybe they're not going to be specific to, picking up a streamer and picking up a content creator or like a YouTuber. Maybe they're going to instead, kind of go with, a couple of trick shotters, a couple of snipers, and then a couple of, personalities, or a couple of Fortnite players. It's really hard to say where they're going with that, but I think it's important that there's a variety of the different places that they're picking recruits from. One being like streaming on Twitch, or from being a YouTuber, or being a trick shotter, being a sniper, being a Fortnite player. I think all those different places would be important to grab from if they're planning on doing that. Now, of course, obviously that's all null and void if they're gonna just do a Phase 5 based around just, say Call of Duty or just Fortnite. I have a feeling, though, they're going to do, a multi-game recruitment challenge, in my opinion. That's what I'm at least hoping for, because it's more opportunity. That leads me to number 3, guys. Number 3 is, I think that Phase 5 needs to stick to the traditions of the challenge in the past. So, obviously, guys, from up to this point, Phase 5 has been strictly Call of Duty. Now, I'm not saying that, that it needs to only be Call of Duty, but I think that it needs to stick somewhat with those traditions. If you add other games into the mix with Phase 5, I think that's fine. Like Fortnite, I think that's great because it creates more opportunity. But I do think that they need to put emphasis on trick shotting and sniping still to this day. Because look, guys, for those of you who never went for a Phase 5, for the Phase 5 challenge, just kind of a refresher here. The Phase 5 recruitment challenge, guys, was specific to trick shotters and snipers in the Call of Duty community. And ultimately, guys, this blew up the community in a major way. And when I say community, I'm even talking Call of Duty as a whole. I mean, it really took Call of Duty to new heights when Phase 5 and the Phase 5 challenge was going on. And so what I'm saying is that I think that this would really help the Call of Duty community in a major way, and it would help out, like, the Fortnite community would help a lot of these other communities, but it needs to stick to that trick shot and sniping community as well, because that's where it started. You have to have, even though the origins of Phase started as one thing and it's evolved to another, I think if you're doing a recruitment challenge, it needs to be somewhat tied still to what really started Phase 5. Ultimately, if you're going to do a recruitment challenge that has nothing to do with trick shotting and nothing to do with sniping, then why call it Phase 5? Just call it, Phase 10, or call it the Phase Recruitment Challenge, or, call it something else. Don't call it Phase 5. When people think of Phase 5, they're thinking trick shotting, sniping, and ways in which within those two communities to join Phase. So I think they need to stick somewhat with the traditions, maybe not 100%, but they need to certainly stick with trying to pick up some trick shotters and some as well as some snipers. And then, guys, at number 4, I think what's really important is the challenge as a whole needs to evolve. So obviously, I'm sure FaZe is trying to figure out ways to evolve the Phase 5 recruitment challenge. And one way I'm thinking in my mind that I would really like is having more rounds. So usually, guys, it started off with, I believe, the top 100, then it went down to the top 50, top 25, the top 10, and then they picked like 5 people, obviously. I think having more rounds, since this is going to be the biggest Phase 5 of all time, and I don't even think it's going to be close, especially if it's going to be based around multiple games like COD as well as Fortnite. So what I'm saying is having more rounds, having like the top 1,000 or the top 2,000 or whatever it might be, and then you kind of break it down from there. I think having more rounds would just, it would be like if they start this summer, Phase 5 this summer, the thing about it is that it could be a challenge that goes all summer long or the rest of the year. It could be like really something special that could be building all year that people are working on all year round. I think that would be absolutely huge, because I think one thing that FaZe is probably thinking to themselves is they want to pick the best of the best. And so the way in which they're going to do that, I think having more rounds so they can really narrow it down to who they definitely want to pick, because there's going to be thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of, people submitting their recruitment challenge responses. And so I think having more rounds creates more opportunity. It gives a lot more opportunity to people who you might not, who might be kind of they may be very close to getting to like the first round of the Phase 5 challenge, and having like an extra, 900 people that you're going to put in there, like say for the top 1,000, if they were to do that for the first round, they're able to get in there. It gives more opportunity and also gives more exposure to more people that are going for the Phase 5 challenge. Rounding it out, guys, coming in at number 5, I think one thing that's really big to me is that this Phase 5 challenge has been teased for a long time. I mean, if we go back, even a couple of years ago, there was teases of Phase 5 returning, and it never did. And so my number 5 thing that I would want is just a follow-through. This isn't, FaZe's fault or something. They've probably had every intention to do the Phase 5 recruitment challenge. It's just, there's been other things that have come up, and maybe they didn't think there was creative differences with some of the ownership that thought that they should go in one direction for Phase 5. Others thought a different way, and then, maybe just the amount of work that goes into it is probably astronomical, going through all of those responses. That's a huge undertaking for FaZe as a team. And so I think that the one thing I want, though, is for a follow-through here. Like, even if this is the last Phase 5 that they ever do, even though I would love to see them do Phase 5 challenges throughout the course of history, I think that what they really need to do is just follow through here. Do a Phase 5 challenge and, make it go for a long time so they have more time to go through responses and things of that nature. I just think that they need to follow through here. They've been teasing this for so long. People have been so excited about a Phase 5 challenge. It just it got teased again. That's going to come out in 2020. So I think it's really important, guys, that it happens, that it just ends up happening. And, because we even had a video that went up saying that Phase 5 was coming back a couple years ago with Fortnite, right? They were saying it was going to be a Fortnite Phase 5, and then I think that video got deleted or something. But anyways, I just really want to see a follow through here. And then to add on to that, I think after the Phase 5 challenge, I think FaZe should continue recruiting people to FaZe even after the Phase 5 challenge. I think it would just be awesome to see FaZe go on a little bit of a recruiting spree, picking up some up and coming, talent, rising stars to join the team. I think that's really important because you start seeing a lot of these teams out there. Whether we're talking teams in the trickshot sniping communities or we're talking about teams that are all based around esports, you're starting to see more and more. Anytime there's a player that joins the team, it's an esports personality or an esports player for one of the teams. You're not usually seeing a lot of new personalities joining the fray and joining these teams. So that would be something I'd like to see as well. Pick up some continue recruiting people after the Phase 5 challenge. So guys, that is my top 5 things I want to see and I would like to have happen in Phase 5. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys want to see and what would you guys want out of Phase 5? Let me know what you guys think, and for more Phase 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've talked on the YouTube channel in the past about Evolve and how this was a game, guys, that was almost ahead of its time when it did come out on the, obviously when I played it on the Xbox One, and it seems like it was one of those games that didn't really get a real chance to shine because there were just problems at launch, and obviously there was a ton of people who started getting behind this game, and then all of a sudden the player base it dropped substantially. The current players and or concurrent players and such, it just dropped off in a substantial way, and I just felt like Evolve never really got the chance that it really deserved. And so what I want to talk about here, we've talked about Evolve 2, the continuation of Evolve, the hope that Evolve 2 will come out at some point or another in the future. And I want to talk about everything that we want in this game if it were to ever come out. Now, guys, this is all going to be based on, if this series ever does come back. I mean, it's in a limbo state at this point. It's hard to say if they would ever continue making another Evolve game. Most likely not. But at the end of the day, you can never say never. If there's enough people in the community that want it, a lot of times the developer will look at those things and very well may greenlight a second game. So let's talk about everything that we want in Evolve 2. So guys, I would say that for me, the number one thing is just a second chance. A second chance at seeing what Evolve could maybe do. They know what they did right, wrong, and what they can do different moving forward. Evolve reminds me of like a Dead by Daylight, but just like, obviously it has its similarities, it has its differences, of course, because it's a, completely different type of game. But at the end of the day, a multiplayer experience, I thought, that was very interesting. You have, obviously, monsters versus, just the humans, right? 3v1, that concept reminds you of games like Dead by Daylight, reminds you of even, Doom Eternal and their battle mode and such. And what I'm getting at is more and more games are like that. And what I said earlier was that Evolve was ahead of its time. It kind of was the first game like that, where it was like this 3v1 type of style. And other games over time have kind of copied that, or kind of taken it to another step. Look at Dead by Daylight, how huge that franchise or that game is at this point. And so I think Evolve had some really good concepts, had some really cool ideas, and I think it's important to see that continue now moving forward into Evolve 2 and just give it a second chance. Let's just see where, it can go moving forward. At number 2, guys, for me, it would really come down to, when it comes to an Evolve 2, I think it's important that you build a story here. Not just the multiplayer experience, which I thought was, in my opinion, I thought was pretty fun, but having another way that you can connect with the franchise. Whether we're talking co-op multiplayer in a campaign, I think that all helps support the structure. When we look at games out there, guys, that are only multiplayer, I think it's really important that when you look at it from a number of different, styles, from a number of different concepts, I think it's important that Evolve as a franchise now, that it would be if an Evolve 2 did come out, I think it's important that it is consistently, no pun intended, evolving as the franchise progresses with a campaign. And that would really help the structure of Evolve 2. Because you look at a game like Titanfall, when this game came out, not having a campaign, only having a multiplayer experience, I feel like actually held it back somewhat. Now, if you're talking free to play, that's a whole nother thing, but I think it's important to have, with Evolve 2, having a campaign that can help support everything else. And kind of get people to understand a story here, because I think it's primed for a story as well as a multiplayer experience. Another thing, guys, that's really big to me when we're talking about Evolve 2 is making it free to play. I think having a free to play Evolve game could be absolutely huge. It could be massive for this franchise. And so I would love to see a free Evolve 2, because I think that it would get a lot of people back into playing the original Evolve just to kind of be refreshed, and then get back into it by playing Evolve 2 and going ahead, playing the campaign, playing the co-op modes, and playing the multiplayer modes, and really put a spin on it, right? Having new hunters, having new, just having new characters overall would also probably really help, because it was a really cool concept, guys. So I would love to see that as well. Overall, guys, these are the main things that I want to see. See a campaign, see co-op modes, obviously the multiplayer mode, which was what was, made it so great. But at the end of the day, I think making it free to play could absolutely be huge for Evolve 2. And I think that could actually really help the revival of the Evolve franchise moving forward. And these are the things that I would want to see. And I think that we could very well see them. It's just hard to say whether or not, it's ever something that will come back. But I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you guys want to see in Evolve 2 if it ever did get greenlit? Let me know. And for more Evolve 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Far Cry 6 is going to be coming out at some point or another, according to a number of reports, guys. And there's a lot of talk as to where this series is potentially going to go and what direction it's going to go in. So we're going to talk about everything that we know so far about Far Cry 6, even though it's pretty limited at this point, guys. Lots of things have been leaked. A lot of different information has come out. But I'll give you guys everything that we know and then everything that we would like to see as well coming into Far Cry 6. So one of the things, guys, that I would really like to see is seeing like some new environments, some new locations. I think that's something that would be really important. We've kind of seen differences in each of the Far Cry games. So if you continue having differences, a lot of jungles and a lot of things of, of that nature we've seen in the past. But I'd like to see kind of differences, change in environments, I think is really important. In an article, guys, that was written by Heather Wald of Games Radar, says ever since the release of the series spin-off Far Cry New Dawn, we've already started thinking about the future of the Far Cry series and possibly of Far Cry 6. While there hasn't been any sort of official announcement yet, it's quite safe to say we'll undoubtedly be seeing another title in the future, given that the franchise continues to rake in the pennies for Ubisoft. So Ubisoft announced, guys, obviously Rainbow Six Quarantine. They announced, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They announced, Watch Dogs Legion. They've been announcing a number of titles that are going to be coming out. I think Gods and Monsters was another one. But at the end of the day, they also are kind of leaving out one of their titles. And they said it was a flagship title. That's one of their biggest franchises that they are also working on. That's got to be Far Cry. There's no other one out there other than Splinter Cell that would be, even close to as big as Far Cry. But Far Cry is bigger than Splinter Cell at this point. So I'm pretty sure that's what they're working on. For the most part, rumors have been speculating about where Far Cry 6 will be set. Far Cry 5 changed things up, planting us in Montana in the fictional setting of the rural Hope County. Far Cry New Dawn also took place in the same location, albeit with a bright post-apocalyptic makeover. Before the release of New Dawn last year, Ubisoft sent out a survey asking players where they would like to see the next game set. So the different locations, guys, were like the Northern Canadian territories on another planet, post-apocalyptic world, India, Cuba, steppes of Alaska, Russia, Serbia, jungles of South America, the jungles of Vietnam, African country, Sahara region, Australia, North Korea, New Zealand. Guys, all these different areas, definitely you could see those being, in a Far Cry game without a doubt. As you can see, it's quite an extensive list of possible locations, and while New Dawn ticks the post-apocalyptic box, we could see any of one of the other settings in the next game. Way back in 2015, another survey presented players with setting choices that were a lot more detailed and quite out there, including worlds with vampires and dinosaurs. Going off these surveys, the series could go anywhere and include anything. The possibilities really are endless, especially when you consider previous Far Cry entries like the futuristic spin-off Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon or the prehistoric Far Cry Primal. Like I said, guys, for me, I just want something different. That's like the number one thing that I want. I want different environments. I would like just to change a little bit. At number one, shake things up. Far Cry 3 was a pivotal moment for the series that opened up the FPS like never before. But since then, for the most part, each Far Cry offering has followed the same formula. As a result, recycling the same format has made the series feel quite repetitive. It would be nice to see the next Far Cry try to be a game changer, do something different to give the franchise a new lease of life. I 100% agree with this. And I think changing it up where it still feels like Far Cry is important, but I would certainly say that changing it up a little bit, there's nothing wrong with changing things a little bit, as long as you don't go too far away from the formula and what made it so great. Number two, take us to an entirely new setting. I agree with this too. As we previously discussed, the setting of the next Far Cry could take place anywhere in any timeline. A lot of the ideas chucked out by the survey would be interesting, and taking it to an entirely new setting could go hand in hand with departing away from the formula. Say, for example, instead of a rural county or tropical jungle, we're on an alien planet. Or maybe it doesn't even need to be so outlandish. The outbacks of Australia could present a lot of fun new challenges, and it's hard to ignore the suggestion of what North Korea might be like. So, once again, I agree with this. I don't know if I really want them to go in this, alien planet. They've all, overall, Far Cry has unrealistic things within it, but I think it's always been somewhat grounded. I don't think they should be doing the alien thing. I think that North Korea would be very interesting. Australia would be really cool. So, but yeah, something different. Different types of environments that you can explore and such, I think are really important. Change the way villains are presented. Our very own wordsmith, Alex Avard, made an excellent case for why the villains in Far Cry aren't working anymore, and it's very true that the series has made a habit of portraying the antagonists in much the same way again and again. So why not change up the way we meet and view them? If you're going to slap every villain on the front cover of every title, make them more complex and pivotal to the plot line, rather than just showing up a handful of times. Voss and Pagan Min from 3 and 4 were solid bad guys, and Far Cry New Dawn's twins could have been the most interesting antagonists in the series, but we barely get the chance to actually see them. For me, I like the villains, guys. Overall, I kind of like the way that they're doing it, in my personal opinion. When we talk about the villains, I don't 100% agree with this. I think that they are still working. Sure, they're introduced in a similar way within each game. But I kind of like what they're doing. I'd like to have just new villains in each game. I think that's really cool. I thought Far Cry 5, all of the villains in there, the family, I liked the idea. I liked Vass. I liked Pagan Min. Overall, they each have different characteristics to them. And sure, maybe have them on the front cover, or since they're on the front cover of the game, you maybe have them on screen a little bit more. But all in all, in my opinion, I kind of like where they're going. I just want to see, new characters that come in and new villains that we're getting introduced to, and I want them to have differences. Like, I want their personalities to be different. I think they've done a pretty good job of that, in my opinion. Introduce new enemies and weapons. Again, this links to the idea of the Far Cry series could do with some freshening up. Sure, we've had deadly honey badgers, saber-tooth tigers, and weird cultists, but we've also had a lot of the same. Far Cry 5 especially felt like it didn't offer as big a variety of foes to take on. Similarly, adding new weapons to play around with also helps the gameplay feel new and exciting, and being able to take on different playstyles in combat is always welcome. I'm always up for new enemies, always up for new weapons, guys. I agree with this. I think that would be great. I agree with Far Cry 5. Didn't have like a huge variety of foes to take on. I do agree with that somewhat. But I wouldn't mind, taking on some new enemies, having some new weapons to play with. I'd be down with that. Let's both keep any progression made in co-op. The co-op feature in Far Cry is a lot of fun. It's great to be able to run around with a pal and take on side quests, but in some respects, it's also a little limiting. In Far Cry 5, you can essentially get a friend to join your game, but only the one hosting gets to keep any mission progression. It'd be great if it could somehow be possible to progress through the entire game in co-op and let both players keep any advancements they make through the quest lines. And I'll even go a step further. I think I would like to see continued progress with the multiplayer side of Far Cry. I think that would be really cool as well. I just think that guys, there are aspects of Far Cry that we want changed, right? Or we want to kind of have some freshening up with. I would say another thing for me, guys, that really bothered me about Far Cry 5, I can say this even for the past 2 Assassin's Creed games, I don't like when you have to be forced into doing side quests in order to kind of move on in the story and progress in the story. That really bothers me. And so for me at least, I really want to see Far Cry 6 move in a direction where they're side quests, but you don't have to do them in order to continue the progress in the main story, because it kind of takes you out of the main story when you have to do these side quests. And sometimes they're totally, not even a part of the main story. So I think it's important that, and I understand that Ubisoft wants everyone to play the totality of the game and the story, but at the end of the day, I think it's a lot better just to kind of go at those things at my own pace. Even if I don't play some of the side quests my first time through the campaign, I'll certainly get to it my second time around because I want to try everything out. But those are my things, guys, as far as what I'd like to see. This is pretty much, all in all, guys, there's not a lot that we know about the game up to this point. There's a lot of, question marks here as to, Ubisoft giving us a ton of different options as far as where we would want the story to go or where we would want it based and set in. It's a very interesting topic, guys, and I'm sure we're going to be getting more information at some point in the foreseeable future, and I'll be sure to keep you guys all up to speed as more information comes out. Let me know what you guys want to see in Far Cry 6. What are the things that you would want to have access to in Far Cry 6? Let me know, and for more Far Cry 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.